What's up, my articulators, my bone builders? So I wanted to make a different type of video. I make a lot of time lapses, but I also want to be able to help people out if they are bone building on their own and they're trying to research certain things and it's just not going anywhere. There does not exist a lot of really good quality anatomical reference for rebuilding turtle skeletons. I understand that's a niche kind of market, but you know, it's something that's so simple. So I wanted to do just a general overview of turtle anatomy, and I'm going to use this Hermann's tortoise that I'm working on as an example. Everything's been kind of assembled to a point where it's much easier to go through it, cleaned up, and I'll post a time lapse of this assembly after this. But I wanted to make a general information overview of the skeletal system of a turtle. I've been online, I've done lots of research, and sadly there are inconsistencies among the anatomical drawings, as in like things are labeled differently, not because there's variation among the genuses or anything, it's because it's just wrong. And especially when it comes to the manus and the pes, the hands and the feet of tortoises, it is excruciating to try to find a good anatomical reference for these aspects of the anatomy. But there exists some really good resources on what they call the phalangeal formula of the hands, and there's much less information about the feet, but I'll post those links in the description. All right, so to the tortoise. Hermann's tortoise, one of 5 recognized species within the Testudo genus. They're found in southwest Europe. There are 2 subspecies of the Hermann's tortoise. I am unaware of which one this is. It is a beautiful animal. They do not get very big, maybe like a foot long. They are common in the pet industry because they're smaller tortoises and they're pretty easy to keep. So the other species you've got are the Russian tortoise, the Greek tortoise, the marginated tortoise, and I can't remember the rest, but this is a Hermann's tortoise. It was named after I believe it was he's a zoologist, or maybe he's a taxonomist, Johann Hermann, I think it was. Anyway, so moving on to the meat of it. Now what's interesting about the turtle vertebrae is like I said, there's minor variation in the morphology of it, but as we know that we have turtles that can hide their neck, or hide their head and neck inside their shell, the crypto turtles, meaning hidden, and then there's the pleuro turtles, side neck turtles, madas, which have to pull their head to the side. Their vertebrae are adapted so that the joints between them allow it to move to the side. 8 cervical vertebrae, they fit together one way. Okay, the association between them, between the condyles and the fossa, the condyles, the bumps, and the fossa, the pits, okay, or convex, concave surfaces, it'll be loose, but it will be, am I trying to put these together and they don't belong? Oh, because it's turned around. Whoops. Will be a good fit, but not necessarily a tight fit. Because remember, especially if the animal's cleaned, you've lost the cartilage, the connective tissue between them, so there's going to be a lot more play between them. It's not going to be, very pronounced. It'll still be a good fit. So if you notice, the 3rd cervical vertebrae in this specific, turtle is what's called biconvex. It's got 2 condyles, okay, 2 bumps, because there are fossas on either side of it in the 2nd and 4th cervical vertebrae. So the 4th has a concave surface, a fossa, and a convex surface, a condyle. Same for the 5th, same for the 6th. When we get to the 7th, it's got 2 concave surfaces. It's biconcave. And then, of course, the next one starts with a convex surface and ends with a convex surface, because the dorsal vertebrae, the first dorsal vertebrae, it has a fossa, which integrates with this condyle, okay? And the last cervical vertebrae, the 8th, has these pronounced kind of hooks on it in the cryptodiric turtles that fit over the facets of the dorsal vertebrae. I didn't mention that the integrations on the dorsal surface of, the interactions on the dorsal surface of the vertebrae are what we call facet joints in people. Long name is zygophosphageal.
Zygapophyseal or zygapophyseal.
Hopefully that popped up on the screen and I said it terribly. Anyway, what I didn't mention, first and foremost, if you're dissecting an animal, a turtle, or whatever, that you don't really know the specific anatomy, the minutia of like the hands and the cervical vertebrae and the tail vertebrae, take pictures before you put it in the beetles or before you macerate it. Separate limbs so you know right from left. Label the containers. Right? You can put a wire. I recommend stainless, something that's not going to oxidize if you're macerating or if you are cleaning it with any oxidizing agent. Even peroxides will oxidize metals. So try to put something in there that's non-oxidizing so it won't stain the bone, but you can run a wire through it. That way it stays together. Maceration and the beetles will both still remove all the flesh from it with no worries. You know, again, the only concern is the oxidizing of the metal wire. Or hell, you can use monofilament line, the coated stem wire, something that's going to stay together during either maceration or beetle processing. So, this is one of the things that I've seen inconsistent anatomical labeling online about. You know, when people see this, one thing to note is that this part of the pectoral girdle will separate. Okay, so it's a good thing. It's a good idea to secure it. But the orientation. So this is the orientation that it will set inside the shell. This is the orientation, flat towards the back. If you're looking at it like this, flat towards the back. This is the right-hand side pectoral girdle. This is not the scapula. You know, we have a wide, flat scapular bone, okay, in our pectoral girdle. This is not the scapula. This is the scapula in a turtle. They are the only vertebrate species in which their pectoral girdle is found inside their ribs. This is the coracoid. This is the acromion. This is the scapula. There you go. We'll go to the humerus. You could probably get away with rearticulating a turtle skeleton completely opposite, and nobody's really going to know. But one thing you'll note is that there's a large, so there's the kind of two processes, two flares on the proximal portion of the humerus, the part that's nearest to the body. Okay, this larger flare is toward the outside. Okay, now it might not be as pronounced in some species of turtles and tortoises, but in general the larger process is going to be towards the outside. All right, moving towards the forearm and the hands, the manus, you've got your ulna, you've got your radius, large one, large chunky bone towards the outside. You'll notice when you put it together, that's the way it integrates, because they kind of have a bulldog stance, you know, in tortoises. So it won't, when it reassembles, it won't reassemble like this, you know. Don't try to assemble it like, oh, there's a big space there. Yeah, you're going to have lost space. There's an obvious way in which they fit together better, and that's more in a bulldog type orientation. Okay, so moving on to the terror, which is the carpal, metacarpal, and phalangeal bones of the tortoise. And again, there's not a lot of references that exist for, you know, anatomical skeletal references that exist. I'll put the link. It should be up here on the screen or down in the description below if you're viewing this video on the YouTube platform. It's great paper. It talks about the development and the distribution of hand bones among different genera of tortoises. Taking a picture, you know, doing that research, like using that paper that I just mentioned before, using that reference I mentioned before, you can get an idea, like, you know, there's the central, which is fused in some animal. It's hard to point. Let me get something that I can actually point with. So the central bone, you've got the ulnare, you've got the pisiform, which is variable in different tortoises. It's some are fused, some are individual. Their placement is different. The number of these bones, the phalanx or the phalangeal bones are different. The metacarpal bones. So take that picture. Try to use it as a reference. Same thing with the hands. So on that topic, let's just jump to the PES, the PES, the feet. There's a lot less references I've been able to find that aren't accessible without paying for a scientific journal. And again, if you download any of these images or if you download these articles, make sure you do proper citations. People spend a lot of time and sometimes money on generating these images, on investing their time into this research. So give them their due. Okay, don't get miffed because something's behind a paywall. Some might be in a position where they can't help, but that's what they need to do in their academic careers. You can always actually directly contact authors, and they will, or they can decide to send you the paper gratis for free. Again, with the stipulation that you always properly reference the illustrations and the information within the paper. That's just good. That's just good policy. That's courtesy among academics and scientists. So again, a lot of variation. There's stuff that's pretty straightforward. Tibia, fibula. You've got your tarsal bones, your metatarsals, and you've got your phalanges. As far as orientation is concerned, tibia is going to be towards the inside, where it integrates with the femur. Okay, and this element right here, which is, again, it's different in different species, okay, in genera, but this is what's called the hooked element. It's actually, so it's residual kind of fifth digit. The hooked element is on the outside. Okay, so looking at the femur, again, you could get away with probably putting femurs on either side and nobody is going to notice. The integration with the tibia fibula is much more straightforward in this one. It's not so much of it's not a bulldog thing. It's actually more kind of splayed out if you look at the tortoise. But when you think about and you look at their locomotion, that kind of makes a lot more sense. The last element we're going to talk about is the pelvic girdle, which, the hips, the pubis, the ischium, and the ilium of the turtle. So as we're looking at it right now, the orientation is like this. This is the way it's going to set inside the shell. This part, the ventral surface of it, you're looking at the bottom of it, with these 4 points of interaction is what's going to integrate with the plastron. It might not directly touch the plastron, but that is going to be the part that's on the bottom. The pubis, ischium, and ilium all integrate at the central portion to form what's known as the acetabulum, which integrates with the head of the femur. This part integrates with the dorsal caudal vertebrae, and the bottom integrates with the plastron. It's kind of a bugger to get in there, so the time lapse will make it look a lot quicker, but this is the orientation of the hips themselves. Again, you're not going to have a direct interaction bone on bone, because you have to remember there is soft tissue there, there's connective tissue, there's meniscus, there's bursa, there's cartilage. I really want to make videos like this that help people reference the anatomy, help builders, help articulators, help people that are in vertebrate and comp anatomy, as a reference, as a resource. The articulating community, the bone building community online, it's pretty awesome. But again, I can't find reliable references for a lot of the species that I tend to work on a lot of reptiles, snakes, lizards, and turtles. So there's not a lot of really good guides or how-tos on how to put this stuff together, and guesswork always ends up kind of just feeding into the errors, because even if some people get it right, some people are going off of misinformation, and they're kind of perpetuating it. And it's not their fault, because again, we're dealing with this age in which we can access information so easily, yet some of the most interesting information, although it's not crucial, it's hidden. It's in these kind of vestiges of the internet, or in some dusty book somewhere that you'll never find because it's never referenced or anything like that. But fantastic information that can really help people in this type of industry, in this type of trade, or people that are just interested in general. I am a very bad illustrator though, so I'm going to rely on the videos and the time lapses for now for assembly. If you like this video, if it's on the platform that you're, if it's on the platform where you can do it, like the video, share it. I visit the links for the references and the resources that I was talking about. But, always do your own research, guys. Always try to confirm it. That's how we build upon the information. Happy bone building, and I'll see you guys later.